signing linebacker Denzel Perriman to a one-year deal. Coming off his best season in 2023, new Bengals running back Zach Moss says he's excited to play a larger role with a new team and is ready for whatever he's called upon to do. Cincinnati signed Moss to a 2-year, $8 million contract after the team traded Joe Mixon to the Texans. This has been NFL Network Now on the Westwood One Radio Network.
Getting your biggest tax refund from Jackson Hewitt can lead to some spirited reactions.
Jackson Hewitt!
Jackson Hewitt is so sure they'll get you your biggest refund that if they don't, you get your money back plus $100.
Jackson Hewitt!
Switch to Jackson Hewitt and we'll beat what you paid last year, even if you filed online.
Hewitt!
Ain't nothing to it. Switch to Jackson Hewitt and pay less for tax prep, guaranteed. Proof of prior year payment required when filing. New clients only at participating locations through April 7th. Terms at jacksonhewitt.com.
This edition of the program. Glad to be here with you on the program today. Tommy, it's been fun being away, but it's good to be back. I miss this dearly when I'm gone for that long, but we're back. We've got Trius Lotta to help us break down KU a little later in the show. Top of the next hour, definitely need to get with him on the latest with the injury status of Hunter Dickinson and Kevin McCullough. I think more important than anything, we'll get into that matchup. Tommy posed a question that I think is fascinating because we hear the discussion a lot as you see the American Athletic Conference get two teams in, UAB, a bid stealer, and FAU. But is that now worth being in for Wichita State? Was the decision the right one a while ago when they made it? Was that before the 2017-2018 season? But we'll get into that as well throughout the show as the Shockers miss the NCAA tournament now. In what would have been a one-bid league out of the American. We'll discuss that as well. Welcome in, everybody. Tommy, how are you?
I'm good. Welcome back, buddy. Glad to have you back here on the show. We missed having you here. You look, well, I was going to say you look tan, but you really can't. You don't look tan. You still look as pale as you did when you left.
Yeah, so two things. I was like, all right, I'm going to grow a beard. And I had to shave that already because my kids hated it so much that my son told me, because they weren't with us, so we're FaceTiming him, and it had gotten to be about a weekend. He's like, Dad, granted, this is my 4-year-old son. Says, Dad, you're not Santa Claus. You need to shave that beard. And I'm like, oh, really? They hated it. So as soon as we got back this weekend, it was like
he really mistaked you. He mistaked you for Santa Claus because I saw a picture of you.
He didn't mistake me for Santa Claus. He was just being a smart aleck. He's well trained.
Gotcha. I was going to say, because I saw a picture of you, and you did not resemble Santa Claus at all. That beard, if you want to call it that, it was struggling to make its way through.
I mean, look, it was only it was like I had about 8 days with it, 8 or 9 days, and it was fine. I mean, I know that it's never going to be, like a full like Hollywood beard, but it could get there. I don't really like it either. It's itchy. It's in the way. Get it out of here. And then the other thing that made me really my other daughters, she was like, "Yeah, I don't like it. It makes you look a lot older." And I was like, "Oh, well, it's out. Like, see ya. We're done with that. It's gone." So that was a fun experience.
Did it drive your wife crazy?
Oh, she hates it. She just said your
Okay.
face looks dirty, is what she told me.
Gotcha. All right.
Yeah. So that was good. We were in Hawaii for about a week, I guess it was, or 9 days or something like that. Gone for 9 days, and it was a blast. It was great. I have like the timing of it to be gone and on a 5-hour time change for the beginning of NFL free agency and the end of college basketball was an experience. Like I'm like, I can't even keep up with what is happening right now. And there's so much to get into, and we'll do that with NFL free agency. Maybe not as much today, as it's obviously a big college basketball day, but just all of it. It was wild to be gone for that stretch of time when it timed out, because it has just been absolutely dizzying trying to keep up with everything that's happened in the sports world. But that's where we are, and I was back, and I caught Selection Sunday, and I got to see the Big 12 championship game out of the tournament, and I got to see the Big 10 championship game yesterday. The brackets are out, Tommy. KU comes in as a 4 seed, which is sort of what we expected. It's an interesting draw for KU, but what's your overall thought on Selection Sunday? K-State not getting in. They were probably closer, honestly, than I thought they would be. It sure sounds like. I didn't think they were going to get in, but Jerome Tang was probably right, Tommy. Had they won one more conference game and gotten to 9, that may have been enough. That's what the committee did with the Big 12. They only took 8 teams, everybody who was 9 and above in the conference. I don't think it was quite that simple, but with OU out and K-State out, that proved to be true.
Well, we were having a conversation last week about the committee being tempted potentially at putting in 10 Big 12 teams into the tournament.
Yeah.
That didn't ultimately happen.
They couldn't do it because of all those bid steals, right? Like
absolutely.
all the bid steals in the conference.
It was wild. I think I saw a stat that out of the 32 conferences that get auto bids, only 11 conferences, the number 1 seed won their conference tournament, 11 out of 32. So, there was obviously quite a bit of craziness over the last week with some of these mid-major conferences and, some of the teams that got in and really what that ultimately did to some of the at-large bids. I think that there was quite a bit of, an understanding after Kansas State lost to Iowa State in the Big 12 tournament that they were going to come up just slightly short. Yeah. And, had they beaten Iowa State again and then gotten into the semifinal round, even if they had lost in that semifinal round to Baylor, it would have been, I think, something that the committee could have looked a little bit closer at them and they would have been maybe more squarely on the bubble. But that loss to Iowa State, that, as nice as of a run that the Wildcats had over the last week, beating Iowa State and Bramlage and then beating Texas in the opening round of the Big 12 tournament, as nice as that was, they came up just slightly short. And it honestly doesn't matter, I don't think, all of, basically what their resume said and the way their non-conference played out and all of that, because at the end of the day, there were just, not enough spots. And Kansas State wasn't the only team. There were several other teams that had really strong resumes that ultimately didn't make it in.
Yeah, it's crazy that it was really close. It was closer than I thought. You look back through the course of the season and you think back to the Texas Tech loss on the road. There were a lot there. I'm glad K-State is embracing the NIT. I think that will be good for this group. I think it will be good for this coaching staff. Maybe an opportunity to get, some bigger minutes for younger players. I don't know how they'll approach it. I think Jerome Tang is talking about it today as they play Iowa State or Iowa, sorry. But I'm glad that they're playing there. For KU, it's what we expected. And I'll tell you, I don't know that they got the best region, but it's pretty close. That region that runs through, is it the East region that runs through Omaha? So Tommy, I love to do this. So before brackets come out, I'm like, all right, I've got to identify the 4 teams that I would put in the Final Four. Like if the planets aligned and I could put these 4 teams in, who would they be? And for me, it was Houston, UConn, Iowa State, and Illinois. Those were going to be my 4 teams. 3 of those teams end up in that regional with UConn, Iowa State, and Illinois. So my bracket's already busted. Now I'm like, okay, crap. I've got to come together and come up with another Final Four. But to avoid that region, and it's the region that goes through Omaha, by the way, it is probably advantageous. Now, we'll get into Samford later. I'm not going to give you a scout on Samford. Okay. All I know is they shoot the 3-ball well and they score a ton. And that's been problematic for KU. Now, should that be problematic for KU in this setting on a neutral floor? Probably not if they're healthy, but it's dangerous, right? We all understand that it's dangerous. If you've watched KU this year and you see those things, that's exactly what you don't want to see in the NCAA tournament. Teams that are really fast, that run it and push it heavily and shoot the 3-ball. However, when you're looking bigger picture and you're thinking KU, you're thinking about, right, trips to the Sweet 16, to the Elite Eight, things like that. Of all the 1 seeds they could have matched up with, I probably like Purdue the most of those kinds of teams, right? Because if they run through Edey, who's probably the National Player of the Year, a second straight year, and you think about if KU's healthy and they can defend him with Dickinson / KJ Adams, and that's probably as good as anybody in the country is going to get. And at that, thought. So to me, if KU's healthy, and I don't know a lot about Gonzaga right now either. I've got to read up on them. But if KU's, and Gonzaga may lose in the first round too. They've got a tough matchup in the first. But if you can get through, the opening week, KU's possibilities here are pretty interesting, Tommy. Remember that KU has wins over, UConn this year, Houston this year, Tennessee. Like a lot of the top seeds in this tournament, KU's beaten them this year. So it's not out of the realm, if they're healthy, to think they could make a run, because I do think their path there is pretty good if they can avoid these landmines early. KU didn't lose much in the bracket. They got a pretty, for them this year, a pretty good looking possibility of a run here.
Yeah, I think that you kind of hit the nail on the head when you kind of talk about the differences in the way that Kansas's draw starts out versus the way that it could finish. So from a macro point of view, if you look at the region altogether from top to bottom, I think I agree. I think I like the region that the Jayhawks are in. I think as far as the way that they match up, having Purdue as the top seed in that region, I think is advantageous for the Jayhawks compared to having Houston or UConn in your region.
Even North Carolina, probably
even North Carolina.
This year.
Yeah. And of course the Jayhawks beat UConn earlier this season, but that's a little bit of a different, situation then as it is now for both of those teams. And then we know what Houston did to the Jayhawks to wrap up the regular season. So I think that having Purdue in that region from a top level view, I do think that draw is advantageous for the Jayhawks, but from the micro level, I think it's going to be relatively difficult for the Jayhawks to get out of the first weekend. And I think it might be difficult for them to get out of the first game. There were 2 teams that I wanted the Jayhawks to try to avoid that were double-digit seeds. I wanted them to stay away from in their region. Number 1 was Samford, and number 2 was McNeese State. And they could be facing both of those teams if McNeese State can beat Gonzaga in the opening round. And I think they probably could. That's one of my upset picks, the 12-over-5 game.
Me too.
McNeese State over Gonzaga. So I think that it's going to be a tough task for the Jayhawks. There are not 2, maybe outside of James Madison, there are not 2 other double-digit seeded teams that I think pose a bigger threat to the Jayhawks than Samford and McNeese State. So I do think it'll be a challenge. And I know we're going to get into that matchup specifically as the week goes on. But one of the things that I think that really will be a challenge for Kansas, regardless if they're 100% healthy or not, is the way that the inability throughout the course of this season that the Jayhawks have had in defending the 3. They are not a good 3-point defensive team. And that's what Samford does. 40% of their shots come from beyond the arc. And so they are lethal from, and they make them. They're lethal from long distance. And so the Jayhawks have had a hard time defending the 3. And so that's going to be a massive challenge for them. I think the only thing, again, we'll talk about this more later, but I think the only thing that will ultimately be the difference maker that I think will have the Jayhawks move on is I think they could just overwhelm Samford with their talent. You can look on paper, all the different things that Samford does, shooting well, they're athletic, all those different things. But if Kansas is 100% healthy with Dickinson and McCullough, you can just overwhelm them, I think, with the talent that they've got.
Well, and that's for me, we can simply look at the injuries this year and decide if KU's healthy. If KU's not healthy, like if McCullough doesn't play, let's say, then I don't. It's hard when you talk about a bracket, right? And what you really have to think about when you're filling out a bracket. Yeah, I like KU's chances if they're healthy and can get to Purdue, but they got to get there. And so when you're filling out your bracket and you're trying to win these contests, it's like, yeah, but they got to get there. And you really don't like their path to get there, because I'm with you. Those are two teams stylistically that you don't want to see KU play in this tournament. If they don't have a full complement of their already thin roster, it's going to be hard to advance them when you're filling out a bracket, whether or not you think they'll win or lose each one of those games, because they're very vulnerable in both. They're 7.5-point favorites against Samford. They would be less than that against McNeese State. I'm pretty certain.
I think they would too.
Gonzaga's a 6-point favorite over McNeese. That actually surprised me. I thought that would be a much tighter line than that. Look, we've known Kansas's path is going to be difficult. We've known this season. I think the expectations, honestly, are as low as they ever have been with Kansas, at least that I can remember. But the flip side of that is, man, you kind of like their path if they can get there. If you look at the other half of that bracket, Tennessee is a team they've beaten this year. I really like them in a matchup against Tennessee. Right? Tennessee is sort of like them, I think. I like them there. I don't know that I like them against Creighton, and Creighton is probably the team I'll push through that region into the Final Four, I think, at least at my rough draft brackets that I've looked at. But that's what's going to be really strange about this tournament this year for KU, is if they can avoid these early two landmines. I do. And I don't know what else will happen in the region or what other upsets will come through. But, if you're looking at the teams that are with them sort of in that, let's say, top 8, it's kind of nice. But the first two are potentially brutal. So I don't know how to handle KU this week. I think. And
that's why I say that from a large, 30,000-foot view, I'd take their region over any other region in the NCAA tournament.
I think I would too.
Outside of the first game and potentially the second game.
Right.
I would.
That West Regional would have been bad for them. North Carolina, Arizona in there. Alabama is in there. There are teams in there that would have been tough. So I wouldn't have wanted East and I wouldn't have wanted West. The South with Houston there, they know they have beaten Houston at least this year, but a hobbled Marquette is in there. Kentucky, who they've also beaten this year, is probably much better than they were then. Kentucky'd be a problem. So I think I'm with you. I think this is the region I'd like to have over any of the others. It's very, very storybook, though, that for Kansas, it is McNeese and Samford. It is those two offensive juggernauts of the double digits, as you've heard people talk about the double digits, that they're potentially going to have to go up against, because that's what they've struggled against this year. Should KU ever be worried about Samford? Probably not. The reality is, though, this year, especially if they're not 100% healthy, they should be. McCullough's health in the opening week, Tommy, is more important to me than Hunter Dickinson's, even though they've had to have, offense generated through Hunter Dickinson. So maybe that's a silly thing to say. I just, to me, on the perimeter, they're so much better defensively if McCullough's there. He's as good as it gets out there, and that will help them tremendously. If they play with their full cast of characters, then the game plan's simple, and you don't even hate it in a tournament. Because if Samford struggles at all in a situation where sometimes teams struggle, and that's shooting the three on the neutral court, and then you love KU in that game, because you just filter everything down low and you lock them down defensively. But you got to have McCullough to do that. And so we'll get an update from Shreyas. I know Bill Self said yesterday that Dickinson has been lightly practicing and they're optimistic. McCullough, He said they hadn't really planned to run him or practice him until today, I think,
Today.
or maybe today. Anyway, so there's a lot of smoke around McCullough and a lot of rumors that he doesn't, he's worried about his draft status. I would read more into that if he hadn't made that sort of surprise appearance late in the conference schedule, because if that was the case, then why play those games? So I don't think that I believe that, quite frankly and quite honestly. I would suspect that this has all been a part of their plan, and he'll be, and who knows how healthy he actually will be. And we could talk to Shreas about this too. We have before, quite frankly, and I don't think he buys it. I think he thinks it's just an injury that's nagging. It's honestly, Tommy, it's like the Jalen Daniels situation, almost to a T, right? People are questioning his loyalty and all these things when the reality is probably he's just hurt, right? And he has been, and it's a nagging injury that he has to try to play through.
I think that even if the Jayhawks are 100% healthy, which I don't think they will be, I think even if you've got Dickinson and McCullough on the court, they're not going to be fully at 100%. Dickinson may be more likely than McCullough playing through an injury. But I would say even if they were 100%, there's still probably a level of concern against Samford. Maybe not a high level of concern, but I think there's still a level of concern because of the way that Samford plays. And if Samford is hitting their shots from long distance, then you could potentially be trading threes for twos, and that's not the way to win a basketball game. So I think that even if everything is healthy and good to go, you have to take this team seriously, because it would be something that, a 13-4 upset happens all the time. This could be one that's primed for that. So you have to battle against that in this opening round game, regardless of the health of Dickinson and McCullough.
Yeah, it is a fascinating year. I want to get your opening take at a Final Four. We'll do that in the second hour. I do want to get into what you brought up yesterday on social media, and it was sort of reacting to what Doug Gottlieb had to say about Wichita State and the American. It is an interesting thing to think about, and we'll do it next. The Shockers in the AAC. Is it the best fit now? Was it the best fit when they made the call? We'll talk about that next on Sports Daily.
.97.5 and 1240 KFH.
Hey, Kansas! Happily root for some upsets with BetMGM. Go to your account to spin the March matchups wheel and receive a 10 through 16 seed team for the tournament. If your squad makes it to the final 16, you'll win a share of $100,000 in bonus bets. The best part? This game is free to play. March is the most magical month of the year for college basketball, and BetMGM is your sportsbook for every big tournament moment. Enjoy same-game parlays, signature bets, live bets, and so much more with BetMGM in Kansas. Make sure to spin the March matchups wheel before the tournament begins and see which college squad you're riding with. If your team goes on a run and is one of 16 left, you'll split $100,000 in bonus bets with any other winners. Only at BetMGM. BetMGM and GameSense remind you to play responsibly. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 plus, Kansas only. New and existing customer offer. All promotions are subject to qualification and eligibility requirements. Rewards are non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 7 days. Please gamble responsibly. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel.
Go Hog Wild, Pit Barbecue. Hog Wild, get some for you.
It's $5.99 barbecue time. Hurry to Hog Wild for a complete barbecue meal that's sure to fill you up for only $5.99. Josh Nicolette, Hog Wild partner and general manager at Harry and Rock Road, has got all the details.
Get a Hog Wild sandwich loaded with our award-winning meats like pulled pork, pulled chicken, or hot links, plus your choice of a classic side and a drink for just $5.99.
Upgrade your sandwich to beef brisket for just $1 more. Join us for lunch or dinner. You can also order online at GoHogWild.com. Hog Wild Pit Barbecue, 6 locations in Wichita, also in Derby, El Dorado, Hutchinson, and Salina.
Go Hog Wild, Pit Barbecue. Hog Wild, get some for you. But don't be late, we close at 8.
As the temperatures begin to rise, so will the weeds. Shop Pride Ag Ace Hardware to pick up your crabgrass control products today. We have many brands to offer, from Scotts to Fertilome. So shop at Pride Ag Ace in Mays, 5204 North Mays Road, where we take pride in serving you.
Spring training is here, and the free Odyssey app has everything you need to get ready for opening day. In-depth team coverage from the biggest sports radio stations across the country, exclusive interviews with players, managers, and MLB insiders, and podcasts dedicated to your favorite team. Listen live to the latest breaking news from around the league, or choose from a list of topics and listen on demand. It's all on the free Odyssey app. Download it today. AUDACY.
I'm Bob Burke, founder and chairman of Burke America Parts Group, a family of brands that includes RepairClinic.com, an appliance and HVAC parts solution company that's grown into an international brand. Before AmericanEagle.com, we partially launched a new technology platform developed by another firm. American Eagle helped take our technology to a whole new level with digital marketing, software development, and business insights into our key markets, appliances, HVAC, and outdoor power equipment, and did so both on time and on budget. AmericanEagle.com has the resources, experience, and talent needed to produce solutions. Our new technology platform, developed by AmericanEagle.com, has produced tremendous results with higher traffic, conversion, engagement, and online revenue. If you have any home repairs you need to take care of, check us out at RepairClinic.com. If you need a world-class website or technology project, then I would highly recommend AmericanEagle.com.
Call AmericanEagle.com at 773-NETWORK. That's AmericanEagle.com, 773-NETWORK.
Get the one and done you want for your dog's monthly protection. NexGard Plus, Afoxolaner, Moxidectin, and Pyrantel chewable tablets. Protects against fleas, ticks, heartworm disease, roundworms, and hookworms. All in one delicious, beef-flavored soft chew. Use with caution in dogs with a history of seizures or neurologic disorders. Dogs should be tested for existing heartworm infection prior to starting a preventive. Ask your vet about NexGard Plus chews.
Truck Stuff knows what it takes to make your truck, Jeep, or SUV stand out from the crowd. Whether it's LED lights, a new bed cover or steps, or getting your truck lifted or leveled, we've got you covered. Our experienced sales team can guide you through your options, and you can even have it installed by our experts. We offer interest-free financing through Snap, so come by today to get your ride tricked out or decked out. Either way, come check us out at 427 North Washington.
Tricked out, decked out, check us out. Truck Stuff.
Imagine a career where you see your work every time you look up into the sky. At Textron Aviation, we make world-class Cessna and Beechcraft aircraft, and we're looking for people to join us. Explore the possibilities at txtav.com/careers.
Brought to you by Textron Aviation. Explore the possibilities at txtav.com/careers.
The commercials are over.
Yo, I haven't got all day.
869-1240.
Time to get busy.
This is Sports Daily on KFH.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Sports Daily here on KFH. Mornings at KFH. Staff enjoys a great cup of coffee from Prairie Fire Coffee. Glad to have Prairie Fire on board, fueling us every day at our Odyssey family of networks. Hey, don't forget Wichita State Coaches shows tonight. You've got the Brian Green Wichita State Baseball Show at 6, 7 o'clock. Christy Bredbender and the Wichita State Softball Coaches Show. Welcome back into Sports Daily. It is college basketball on the brain as we're on the Monday following Selection Sunday, ahead of what many call the greatest sports event of the year, which usually comes Thursday and Friday, games all day long. Can't wait for it. Love it. By the way, we will be, or I should say Tommy and Paul will be out at the FanDuel Sportsbook at the Kansas Star Casino, broadcasting live Thursday and Friday morning ahead of those games. I'm devastated that I will be out of town again. All my travel happening in the last 14 days or so, but I will miss that. But they will be out at the FanDuel Sportsbook. Head out there and join them. Tommy and I went out there a couple weeks ago. It's fantastic. It is going to be as good a setup to watch basketball as you will find in the area. The sportsbook feels just like a Vegas sportsbook. In fact, it is about the same size as a lot of Vegas sportsbooks I've been to. It's great. You got good food out there. It'll be awesome. So make sure to get out there and join Tommy and Paul if you can, if you're looking for a place to go watch the games, or make sure to listen in here as we get you primed up for the tournament. out there at the Kansas Star Casino. I am genuinely jealous, Tommy, that I'm going to miss that because it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's going to be great. And I know that, there are a lot of people that will take vacation days on Thursday and Friday or just play hooky from work to watch the tournament. They'll go down to the FanDuel Sportsbook there at the Kansas Star Casino to watch all the games, to do the betting and that sort of thing. So Paul and I will be down there. I know one thing that we're planning on working on is, putting together our best bets of the opening rounds, maybe even the best bets of the tournament. And so we'll share those on air as the week goes on. In fact, we should probably get your best bets as well before you're gone for the rest of the week. And we'll share those with everybody while we're there live at the FanDuel Sportsbook. So looking forward to that. Thursday and Friday, 9 to 11, we'll be there, shows live during that time. And then we roll right in to the opening round games on both days.
It's going to be a blast. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a great experience, just like Thursday and Friday will be of the tournament, always are. All right, let's talk about something. Tommy, it was Doug Gottlieb yesterday at some point, tweeted out that here's his tweet, Wichita State has got to get out of the American. Unreal fan base, but that league makes zero sense. Big East should take them and Dayton. I don't think anybody would disagree that they'd prefer to see Wichita State in the Big East. I mean, I think that's a pretty obvious statement. Tommy, you said that you were in favor of the American originally, but the way the conference has been poached, basically, that it was a bad decision in retrospect for the Shockers. I don't agree with that at all. I think it was the right decision. I think that if you stack now, as the Valley had a really good year, right? It was a one-bid league. Indiana State didn't get in. They should have. They were the most snubbed of the team, so maybe it's a two-bid, but that's what the American had. And, even with all the poaching, remember, when the Shockers joined the American, UConn was in the league. Cincinnati was obviously still in the league. It was a 4 to 5 bid league, quite frankly, with Wichita State, Memphis, UConn, Cincinnati in there, usually at the top or near the top. It's not that anymore, but quite frankly, they've done a really good job. I mean, UAB is in, Florida Atlantic is in. Those are two of the new teams. North Texas was good. Charlotte was good, surprisingly. So I think they've done a good job. I still would say that the AAC is way ahead of the Valley in quality and depth and in what matters the most, and that's what Wichita State gets out of the arrangement, which is a much better TV deal and more money. So I absolutely think it was the right decision when they made it. It was the best league to get into at the time. Now, it got poached. It did. And the Big East would be more attractive today, but who's to say the Big East would even want Wichita State? That's the problem. So, if we're looking at it as a good decision or a bad decision, I think it's still a great decision because I'd still rather be in the American than the Valley.
Yeah, I think that in all the teams that you mentioned that were in the American, that's all true. And then you didn't mention Houston. Houston was in the American as well. And, they're obviously big time quality basketball programs that were in the American. And it's nobody's fault. Like, I'm not blaming anybody at Wichita State for the thought of, okay, so this is not what we thought it was going to be when we joined the conference 6 or 7 years ago. It's just the realignment world that we're in. And, teams are getting poached from different conferences, and the American is a conference that got poached quite a bit. And the top tier teams, it started with UConn. And then, from there, the other teams that you just mentioned. And so the conference looks wildly different now than it did when Wichita State first joined. When Wichita State first got the invitation to leave the Valley and go to the American, of course, it was, sort of being parlayed off of all of that success, the Final Four run and all of that in, the mid 2010s. They get to the American Conference, and of course, like, it's more money, it's a better TV deal, and all of that. You've got top tier, high quality opponents. And then from there, everything starts to change. Greg Marshall leaves Wichita State. The basketball program, goes through some difficult times. Then you've got the top caliber teams in the conference start to leave and go elsewhere, whether it's the Big 12 or other places. These things are happening. And when I say that it was, in retrospect, the wrong decision, I don't mean that it was the wrong decision at the time. Of course, the American at the time, back in 2017, head and shoulders above the Valley, and I think probably still is. But I do think that in retrospect, it would probably, I think, everybody would maybe take a pause. Like if we knew what this conference would look like back then, I think there might be a little bit more of a deliberation. Is this the right thing for us, considering the way that the conference will turn out several years later?
Yeah, I don't think so. Because I think if you even look at it as like any Valley team right now would jump at an invitation to join the American right now. Like as it stands today, if the American extended an invitation to any of the Valley teams today, they would take it. And so should Wichita State be in a better league? Should they be one of the teams that's been poached? I don't know the answer to that. The reality is they probably wouldn't have been, right? Because if Memphis has not been poached, Wichita State's not going to get poached. They don't have football. And I think when we consider UConn is the one that stings, right? It's easy to see Houston and Cincinnati. Those teams didn't leave because they have great basketball programs. Those teams left because they have good football programs, and UCF. It doesn't have anything to do with basketball. So it's not like Wichita State's getting an invite from the Big 12 because they have a good basketball program. We don't even know if Gonzaga is going to get that invite from the Big 12, right? Wichita State certainly is not right now. So really it becomes, okay, Big East. If between now and then, do you think the Big East would have ever come calling? And I think the answer to that is no.
Yeah,
Wichita State haven't had the level of success, since they made the decision. The first time they won the league was with Isaac Brown in the COVID year. Otherwise, they hadn't won that league yet. And so it's hard to say. Honestly, Wichita State feels like a pretty good fit in the American right now to me. Would I like to see them join another league? Certainly, I would. The Big East would be incredible, but I don't know that I'd rather see them in the Atlantic 10. I mean, I feel like that's a lateral move at this point. I think the American is going to be positioned better in TV deals, of which Wichita State's not going to get every piece of because of football. But certainly just look at, and I brought this up yesterday, the American just contractually, and that doesn't even, factor in the plus or minus of what you could get. They contractually double up the Valley in network games, which basically are non-streamed games. And I think that number's not going away. I just don't know where the fit is. To Gottlieb's point, yeah, the Big East should get them. We'd all love to see Wichita State go to the Big East. No, everybody would love that. Big East is an incredible basketball conference. But that doesn't mean that that's actually on the table or going to happen. And we've talked about a million times the pressure and the importance of Wichita State being good, like right now, not program building, not doing all this stuff. That's why. Because if there is movement, you can't have Wichita State finishing 12th. What did they finish? What was the seed? 12, wasn't it?
They were the 12th seed. Yeah.
In the AAC. Like that can't happen. You can't have that.
So I always look at Creighton as kind of that beacon, the city on a hill. I always look at them as a team that they were in the Valley for a long time. They were big time rivals with the Shockers. They got an invite to go to the Big East. They got to go and do that.
Being a Catholic school.
Sure, absolutely. There are other things that, at play there for sure. But they've also had staying power in the Big East. They've been in that conference, and they've been a player in that conference more years than not. That's a testament to Greg McDermott and, just the way that basketball program has been built. And I think that at the time, I remember at the time when Creighton left the Valley and went to the Big East, there was quite a bit of, wringing of hands and teeth gnashing from Wichita State and the fan base at the time, because it was like, well, shoot, there goes our biggest rival and another quality team that is no longer in our conference. We feel like we should be on the same level as them to be able to leave the Missouri Valley and go somewhere else. Then the American came calling. But now the difference between the two teams is that Creighton is still at the top of the mountain in that conference, which is a more competitive conference. Wichita State is down at the bottom of the American right now. And, there are obviously, as we know, there are a lot of different circumstances at play with all of that. But from a conference perspective, just look at a team like South Florida this year in the American. This is a team that, would they finish 16-2, 15-2 in conference play, 24-7 overall. They didn't win the conference tournament. They didn't make the NCAA tournament. Their net ranking right now at the end of the year, 78. and they finished the conference season at 15-2. You know what that sounds like to me? That sounds like a Valley team at the top of the Valley, a Valley team that runs all over the competition, doesn't win the conference tournament, doesn't make the NCAA tournament because their strength of schedule and their net rankings are not very good.
Well, sure, but that doesn't mean the Valley would be a better league. The Valley had a better year probably because I don't know that anybody in the American had as good a year as, Indiana State, but FAU was going to be a one bid league for either conference anyway. We know that now. I don't know, quality of play. I wouldn't say it was a down year for the American. It certainly wasn't a great year for the American because Memphis should have been an at-large. You should have had at least 2 at-larges with Memphis and FAU. They didn't. Neither one of those teams probably lived up to their expectation. FAU's coming off a Final Four run where they returned everybody, and they entered the tournament now as an 8 seed. Memphis couldn't get in with one of the most talented. And same old story with Memphis, right? Like,
they fell apart. They collapsed.
Wash, rinse, repeat. Like, nothing changes there. So, like, the reality too is for the American in basketball, the American needs Wichita State to step it back up. Wichita State should be a banner carrier for the league.
I think that there is an argument to be made. Is the American an upgrade to the Valley? Yes. And I think that we can both agree to that. Is the American in 2024 as big of an upgrade as it was in 2017?
Well,
no.
Of course
the answer is no. And I think that gap has been narrowed due to realignment and all of that.
But
I think at the end of the day, my point in all of this is that, was it the right decision at the time? Yeah, it was. It was a clear upgrade for Wichita State. That doesn't mean it always has to be that way moving forward. And so I think that if there's a way that this program can get back competitive, and obviously that's the goal, then at that point, I think that you try to find a way to, you always want to try to find a way to increase your competitiveness and the conference that you're in whenever possible when you're a program like Wichita State, so you're not left in the dust. I think that's something that's got to be on the table moving forward.
I think there are 2 possibilities for the Shockers that one makes more. One you'd take in a second, and that's the Big East. But the Big East is comprised of, 9 out of 11 private Catholic universities, other than UConn, which Wichita State is not at the same profile as, and Butler, who is in and has been in for a long time. I don't think you just blindly leave for the Atlantic 10. Maybe you do, but I don't think you do. The Mountain West is the other one. And I just don't know, the Mountain West would be interesting, certainly. Is it that much better? They had a better year this year. The Mountain West was really, really good. But what does the future look like for the American or the Mountain West, right?
It wasn't that long ago, correct me if I'm wrong, but there were discussions about some kind of merger between the American and the Mountain West.
Yeah.
That would have been incredible for Wichita State.
Ultimately, you may get there anyway. If that merger happens, though, you don't want to get left out. And what Wichita State needs desperately is a full Charles Koch Arena and a program that is never not on the bubble at minimum. And so that is what, your question poses that to me, and it reemphasizes the urgency at which we've approached this era of Shocker basketball from day one. There is not rebuilding time, because realignment is still happening. And right now, a team drawing 5,000 fans a game, whatever it is, that finishes 12th in the American, you got to be better than that. You got to bring in better players. You got to, all of it. You got to be positioned in NIL. You have to make a league more attractive at a television negotiating table, or why would they invite you in the first place? They're not going to invite you because Wichita State made a couple of great runs in 2013 and 14. Nobody cares about that. When we're talking about this conversation, you got to be good right now. And so it does emphasize the urgency and the need for a team that showed a little life late in the year to be really good next year. If the expectation is not to try to win the American next year, what are we even doing right now for Wichita State? 869-1240. Trias Lotta joining us top of the hour to talk a little about KU. I want to get Tommy's bird's eye view, rough draft, still definitely in pencil with an eraser, Final Four look at the outset, because that's what we do right now. We have ridiculous looks at things like that. We'll do that next on Sports Daily. All right, welcome back, everybody. Sports Daily on KFH. Jacob Albracht, Tommy Castor. Glad to be with you on this Monday edition. Tommy, so I don't know how you do your brackets. I like to, I told you, have a Final Four before they're released and see how that, plays out. It didn't give me any opportunities to do that this year. So then I'm like, okay, well, who am I going to, if I look at the regions, who do I like? I've got right now, I think I have Illinois, Arizona, I believe, when I rough drafted it, Houston and Creighton would be a rough draft Final Four, and then I sort of work backwards. I do need to see a lot of things, though, and really dig in before I make that call. Who is your, gut feeling, first reaction, sort of, I could see this team, who do you have there?
Yeah, so, okay, out of the South, I think the team that I'm going to go chalk here. I like Houston to get all the way out of the South region. I know that there are some talented teams that can make runs. I think Nebraska is coming on strong and really good under Fred Hoiberg. I like Texas Tech. Kentucky can be dangerous too, but I'm going to go chalk in the South. I think Houston is the Final Four team in that region. In the Midwest, I kind of agree with you. This one's kind of tough for me. I kind of agree with you. Creighton is a team that when they get hot, they can beat anybody in America. That being said, though, I'm going to go Tennessee out of the Midwest to be my Final Four team. Okay. I really like what Tennessee has done. The West region is absolutely loaded, and there are several teams that I think could do extremely well, but I'm going to go Arizona out of the West. I think that they've been underrated for most of this season, and what Caleb Love has done since he's came over to Arizona has been incredible. And then out of the East, as great as UConn is, man, I like Auburn, but I also like Iowa State. That's probably the strongest the strongest region out of all of them. I think I'm going to take Iowa State out of the East.
Iowa State, Illinois is hard for me, and I would have taken UConn too. I've got to reserve my right to change this because I do need to dig in a little bit more. But those are just bird's eye looks at this thing.
So I'm taking Iowa State, Arizona, Tennessee, and Houston. Those are my 4 Final Four teams.
Yeah, and I had Houston, Arizona, Illinois, and Creighton. But mine's probably going to change. I'll tell you that. I've known this was going to be the trickiest tournament because it's been the trickiest season. We'll get into it. Shreyas Laddha joins us top of the next hour. We're going to get the latest on KU. If they're healthy, we've seen this team be as good as any in the country, and we've also seen them be very bad. We'll talk about it all with Shreyas next on Sports Daily.
97.5 and 1240 KFH. This is Sports Daily with Jacob Albracht and Tommy Castor.
It's that time, Sports Daily, getting all the inside information on the Kansas Jayhawks. Let's go now to the KU football and basketball beat writer from the Kansas City Star, Shreyas Laddha.
And we do welcome back to Sports Daily with Shreyas Laddha joining us. Shreyas, it is tournament time. We are finally there. Jacob Albracht, Tommy Castor here. How are you this morning?
Good. How are you guys?
Good. We'll get into Samford. We'll get into all of those things, but I think it's quite simple where to start with KU. Are we going to get Kevin McCullough and Hunter Dickinson? And if so, how much of them are we going to get? 100%, 80%? What's the latest there from Lawrence on the health of those two key players?
Yeah, Hunter's back practicing. I think he started some full contact practice on Friday or so. Kevin didn't do anything that day, but they're hoping to have him back practicing Monday, if not Tuesday. So it looks like, Bill's expecting them both to play, but obviously at the moment, it's very much still, wait and see with Kevin. And I think Hunter looks like he's a little further ahead in the recovery process.
Shreyas, going back to last night for Selection Sunday, were you surprised at all by the seed or the region for the Jayhawks, or were you pretty locked into the fact that they were going to be a 4 seed? Did you think that there was any chance that they could maybe slide out of the top 4 after their opening round loss in the Big 12 tournament? Or did you feel like number 4 was kind of where they were going to live?
I expected them to be at number 4. Their early season resume really kind of carried them to that 4 seed. UConn win, the Tennessee win, the mid-February Houston win, the Baylor win at home as well. Those things I think were ultimately the deciding factor in keeping them 4. You couldn't fault them enough like that much for the slide at the end with how unhealthy they were, I think. And just looking at their resume, they are one of the stronger 4 seeds right now.
Shreyas, so I want to go back to Kevin McCullough for just a second. I hear a lot of he's worried about draft status. He's not fully committed, all of those things. Are you getting any indication of that? I know you're pretty in tune with, his NBA prospects and everything else. It feels to me like this a little bit. It's a lot of bit like Jalen Daniels was, because it's a nagging injury. People question it. Is Kevin McCullough like all in if he can go here, or what's your sense on that?
Yeah, I think he's all in if he can go. I mean, I think it's a really weird injury in the sense that we've seen bone bruises cause guys to be out months, if not the entire year. I mean, in the NBA a couple of years back, Kendrick Nunn missed the entire NBA season because of the bone bruise. Remy Martin missed, was going on and off with the bone bruise. He, I think, just a couple of years back for Kansas itself. So it's one of those injuries that you have to be really cautious with. And it's an injury that you can really very much, I think, re-injure, as we've seen every time. It seems like every other game he comes back, he re-injures it, and it becomes worse, or it, becomes the state it was before. So it's a really thing. Like the biggest thing is they're being cautious about it because they know how important he is, but also, there's millions of dollars at stake, and you don't want to unnecessarily risk yourself. But from what I've, gathered and what I know, that's not what they're worried about. They're more worried about, making sure they don't rush him out there and it becomes something worse.
What do you think the best way is now that they know their opponent, they know kind of the path to get out of the first weekend? What should the strategy be in utilizing, and I'm just going to lump them both together, Dickinson and McCullough. If you're playing Samford and then in the second round, if it's Gonzaga or McNeese State, is there a scenario where, maybe we don't see one of them for an extended period of time, or they're coming off the bench, or maybe we don't see them at all? Or do you think this is a scenario, a situation where Bill Self has got to have both of them play, extended minutes to be able to feel confident that they're going to move out of the first weekend?
Yeah, I think if they're playing, they should be starting. That's my thought process on that. Like, you can't kind of go midway on that kind of thing where, we'll give them a couple of minutes off the bench. You got to let them play. I think if they're ready and good enough to play, they got to start. I think they need Hunter back ideally by, at least the second game if they beat Sanford. I think they need Hunter for Gonzaga or McNeese State a lot more than they needed for the first game, just because based on play style, Sanford obviously shoots a ton of threes, but they're not a good rebounding team. And Kansas, while they're not anything special rebounding-wise, they're a much better rebounding team than Sanford is. So that's where a game where Kevin McCullough would be pretty important, I think, is the first game and the second game, obviously. But I think, I anticipate if they're both healthy or 80% or so, that they will both play and they'll play extended minutes. And, if something that were to happen where, he retweaks it with Kevin retweak it or something like that, then you kind of go from there. But it's 100%. I think you need these guys healthy. And I think they can beat Sanford without one of them, but I don't think they can beat Gonzaga or McNeese State without one of them.
Okay, let's look at it this way then. If it's not one of those two guys, like if those two guys, let's say they're either not playing or not completely healthy, who then is the next man up to be the guy for KU in this tournament? Who would have to then become, the best player for them to have success if it's not one of those two guys?
I think it would be a guy like KJ Adams or, Johnny Furphy. It has to be one of those two guys. Those are the only two guys who can really score the ball. I think without those two guys on the court consistently, and I trust, even Johnny's kind of going through a shooting slump right now, but those guys have to really step up, I think, and be their best offensive self. We saw KJ score 22 against Cincinnati, and a lot of it, I think, just came down to, well, they needed somebody to score some points, and KJ was there. But, if Kansas missing one or two or both of those guys, they need Johnny and KJ to step up and take a heightened offensive role.
Well, we know that, DeJuan Harris did not have a good game against Cincinnati in the Big 12 tournament. And you mentioned having KJ and Johnny be able to step up regardless of the health of Dickinson and McCullough. What's your mindset on DeJuan Harris entering the tournament? It sounds like he was relatively hard on himself after that loss against Cincinnati in the Big 12 tournament. And, we've talked about him so many different times throughout the course of the season, how, he's one of the leaders of this team, but really hasn't found it, at least offensively. He turned the ball over several times in the Big 12 tournament game last week as well. So what do you think your expectations should be? What should our expectations be for a guy like DeJuan Harris in the NCAA tournament this week?
Well, you have to trust that he's going to figure it out. He's a not NCAA champion. He's a guy that's led him to lead him to a national title. I think you have to trust that, he will do what needs to be done on the offensive end, whether McCullough or Dickinson are playing or both of them are not playing, or both of them are playing. I think he's shown in games that he can step up when he needs to. It hasn't been consistent enough for me to sit there and say, yes, I 100% trust DeJuan in that scenario, but he obviously has the trust of Coach Self. He has the trust of his teammates, and I think he knows to step up when he needs to step up. And I think with how hard he took the Big 12 loss, I think he's going to be ideally the best version of DeJuan Harris out there in the NCAA tournament.
Shrees Latta joining us, KU hoops and football reporter for the KC Star. They'll need him to be defensively as much as anything else. We look at Sanford, and they're a team that shoots the three well. We've talked ad nauseum this year about how KU struggled against teams that shoot the three well. KU doesn't shoot the three. Does KU have a path here? We kind of like their path if they can get through these first two rounds. Of the teams that are in there with them, it's probably as good a region as they could have hoped for. I don't think anything happens for KU that's not led by that defense, though. So can KU defensively, especially in these potential opening two games, be good enough to get them to the games where you kind of like their matchup further into the region a little bit?
Yeah, no, I definitely think if they can get past these two, I think there's a real chance that they can beat what would look like Purdue and Tennessee based on Vegas odds. I wrote about it yesterday, like whether they got lucky or unlucky. To be honest with you, they got unlucky in the first 2 games. They got the 2 highest possible 13 and potentially, if Gonzaga wins, 5 seeds in the nation, according to KenPom and Ortovic rankings. But Purdue is the third, the second easiest 1 seed, and Tennessee was the second easiest, I think, 2 seed or whatever. So it definitely could be worse. And I think Kansas matches up well against Tennessee and Purdue as well as they can against these elite teams. Obviously, the issue with Purdue is, if they've made it that far, that means Zach Edey and their 3-point shooting that complements him has done a tremendous job. So Kansas would probably have to limit the gravity that he pulls in from the paint and make sure they don't leave 3-point shooters open, because I think Purdue's shooting like 40% on the year, 40.2% or something like that, which is number 2 in the nation in 3-point shooting. So there's a real, if they can do that, there's a chance for an upset. And, we've seen Kansas beat Tennessee. We saw them beat Tennessee in Maui. I think Kansas matches up well with them if they're fully healthy. The 2 biggest question marks for Kansas are, can they win against Stanford, which I think they can, and can they beat Gonzaga or McNeese State? And that is one of the more, I'm not sure if they can. It depends on the health of Kevin McCullough and Hunter Dickinson. I think it's going to be a grueling all-out battle for this Kansas team to win any game, because that's just who they are. But, if they can get past the first 2 games, I wouldn't be surprised if they make a run.
Here's my biggest concern, Shreya, about the Samford game specifically. Tell me what you think about this. So if Samford is hitting their threes, that they obviously take a ton of, it's like 40% of their shots are from long distance. If they're hitting them, even if Hunter Dickinson is healthy, if the Jayhawks are trading 2s for 3s throughout the course of the game, to me, that doesn't seem like a winning strategy. So I would feel like I'd feel a lot more comfortable about this particular game if we knew that there was some consistent offensive threat from long distance for the Jayhawks. Now, I do think that there is a scenario, and I mentioned it at the top of the show today, about how there could just be the situation where the Jayhawks overwhelm Samford with their talent, and that could absolutely happen. But I do feel like there is a level of concern, even if you've got Dickinson and McCullough healthy and playing in the game, where if Samford is hitting their threes, the Jayhawks don't really have anybody to counteract that.
Yeah, I think, I don't disagree with that. I think, it is going to be interesting to see what the rate Nick Samford is hitting at the threes. If they're hitting 10 threes a game and Kansas hits like 2 or 3 like that we've seen them do, yeah, I don't think Kansas is going to win that game. But if it's something like, Kansas limits Samford to 5 or 6 threes and Kansas makes 3 or 4, maybe 5 themselves, I think they can win that game. And I think Samford's defense isn't that great anyway, so Kansas will be able to score inside the paint relatively easily. And I think they match up well against Samford in other instances outside of 3-point shooting. But the big thing for this team is you can't let Samford get comfortable and get out to a big lead. If you let Samford get comfortable, get out to a big lead with 3-point shooting, it's going to be really hard for Kansas to claw back, because we haven't seen them consistently go out there and make 3-pointers. They have had 8 different games where they've only made 3 3-pointers. That's the least amount of 3-pointers they made. And, in Cincinnati, they didn't hit a third 3-pointer until 37 seconds left in the game, when Patrick Cassidy, their walk-on, hit a 3-pointer in garbage time. So, I haven't seen anything from Kansas to showcase that they are a good 3-point shooting team, or that they can, hit 6 or 7 3-pointers consistently. But there have been games where they've done well from 3-point land, relatively well for them. And if they can have one of those games where they hit 5 or 6 threes and Samford hits 10, I think Kansas still wins a game like that. It's about mitigating how much Samford can hit and obviously making sure Kansas hits more than 3 3-pointers, because you can't have a differential where it's like 30 plus like it was against BYU.
Yeah, it's what a crazy bracket to think about. If they get through the first 2, you can see a deep run. You can see them losing in either of the first 2 rounds. It's going to be an experience for KU fans. Just buckle up and see what happens. I try to think back to some of the real high points of this season, and think they're a potential bracket buster for people. I don't know what to I don't know what to make of it. I guess we just have to sit and wait and get a health status update. When will we know, by the way? For those filling out brackets, Shreya, like what is the key day for people to pay attention to as far as the injury status of the two key guys for KU?
I think it'll probably be Wednesday, because we'll have open locker room access then. I'm guessing everyone will be asking Hunter and Kevin, how they're feeling, etc. I don't know if they'll be, 100% give a definitive answer then, but I have a feeling we'll know Wednesday. If Kevin practices today and he practices tomorrow, that means that's a good sign, I think, for his status. If he doesn't practice today and he's still not good to go tomorrow, I don't feel super confident that he's going to go out there and play real minutes, maybe just plays limited minutes or whatever. But I think Wednesday will probably be a good parameter for people to find out how healthy Kansas is.
Well, Sharice, I know that obviously you follow not only Kansas, but the Big 12 in general. And so we know the teams that made it in from the conference and obviously how talented a lot of these teams are. Iowa State winning the Big 12 tournament and all of that. But knowing regions and draws and that sort of thing, in your mind, which Big 12 team do you think has the best likelihood to cut down the nets?
No, I'm going to go with Houston. I feel like Houston's have been the most consistent team in the Big 12. I think they have the right combination of offense and defense to make a deep run. I think, they have the coach for it. I think them or Kansas are the two most built teams for the Big 12 or for the NCAA tournament. And obviously with Kansas, it's 100% dependent on, health and stuff like that. But I really think this Houston team not only has shocked a lot of Big 12 fans because they've been so good in Big 12 play, but, they have one of those rare teams where everything is working out for them. And I think they're built for a Big 12 or the NCAA tournament as long as they don't get injured anymore. I know they're a little on the shorter end with depth and stuff like that with some of the injuries, but if they can stay healthy, I like Houston out of their, side of the bracket.
Yeah, I think I agree, Shreyas. I liked Iowa State before I saw their draw in that just absolute bloodbath of a region. Shreyas has mentioned some of his great stories out right now at the KC Star. Shreyas, we will follow you now and through the tournament. And next week, hopefully it's not some sort of post-mortem, but a look at the Sweet 16 for KU as it's going to be a very different conversation if they can get to that point. We appreciate your time and your work. We know it's a busy time. Safe travels, and we'll talk again soon.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys.
There goes Shreyas Laddha, KU football and basketball beat writer for the KU Star. You can follow him, by the way, on social media at SHRE98. I don't know what we decided there, Tommy, other than let's see about Wednesday.
I don't think we decided anything.
I agree with Shreyas, though. Like, KU is built, if they're healthy, obviously, to be a tournament team. They really are. The one thing that they don't do that you like to see tournament teams do is shoot the three. But they defend at the right level. They have a great point guard. They've got experience. Like, all of these things that you like to see. But I don't remember ever being more frightened going in of the first two games potentially for them as I am in this one.
I can think of a handful of occasions in the NCAA tournament when Kansas has run up against a team that is lethal from long distance and has absolutely killed them. And it's been teams Villanova, Oregon did it, USC did it, Auburn did it. It's happened several different times in the last 5 or 6 years in the NCAA tournament. And, I certainly don't want to add Samford of all teams to that list, but I don't know if you had a chance. Did you watch Kansas and Cincinnati in the Big 12 tournament without Dickinson and McCullough?
And I did I was at like a tiki bar.
It was
watching
rough.
from a distance. Yeah. I tuned out immediately. I'm like, I'm not wasting my time with this. Because it was very clear very quickly that was not happening. And that's sort of what I expected there. I mean, look, if those guys don't play, KU's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
But if they do, I don't know what I'm going to do with KU. I really don't. I don't know what to do.
The best part about it, though, there have been plenty of years where people have had high expectations for the Jayhawks, and it makes it a nerve-wracking March Madness. There are no expectations right now, so it is what it is, and you just go out there and you try to get a couple of wins.
It'll be fun to watch. It will be the late game there on Thursday. It'll be one of those games that ends very, very late. You're talking about maybe a midnight finish for that game as things get pushed back and delays and all that kind of stuff. So we'll find out, soon enough. But Wednesday, we'll watch that injury status for you very, very closely and any chatter this week about what's being said. When we come back, we'll have more on this tournament. Who are the potential dark horses we like? God, I love this time of year. Sports Daily. Phone lines are back open, 869-1240. On the way out, let's give away some HTO iced tea and coffee. We'll get you a free iced tea card good for either Wichita location or in Derby, and a free coffee card now featuring Free Reign coffee. That also good for Derby or in East Wichita. Good luck. First caller to the KFH hotline, 869-1240. We'll get those. We'll be back with more after this.
97.5 and 1240 KFH.
Spring is in the air, and that means one thing. Dandelions are coming. Don't let those annoying yellow weeds invade your lawn again. This year, trust your lawn to Ryan Lawn & Tree. This is Larry Ryan. No other lawn care company delivers the results that Ryan Lawn & Tree delivers. More than just providing a beautiful dandelion-free lawn. Your trusted pros in the clean red trucks make sure your entire landscape is healthy, strong, and ready to look great no matter what nature throws at it. And unlike the other guys, the pros at Ryan Lawn & Tree are employee owners, full-time professionals going above and beyond every day with 5-star customer service. Call us or click RyanLawn.com today. And as a new customer, you'll save 50% on your first lawn application. Enjoy a worry-free, effort-free, dandelion-free lawn this year with Ryan Lawn & Tree.
It's easy to think all money managers are pretty much the same, but at Fisher Investments, we're clearly different.
Different? How? Sell high commission investment products, right?
No. Fisher Investments doesn't sell any commission-based investment products.
Well, you must earn commissions on trades.
Nope, never at Fisher. We're a fiduciary obligated to act in our clients' best interest. It's the highest standard of care for a financial advisor.
How do you know what's in their best interest?
We get to know our clients and then tailor a portfolio based on their goals and needs.
But you probably sneak in some hidden and layered fees.
No. We have one transparent management team, structured so we do better when our clients do better.
Wow, you really do look out for your clients.
That's because our top priority is helping them achieve a comfortable retirement. It might be why most of our clients come from other money managers. Visit FisherInvestments.com to find out why investors like you switch to us. Fisher Investments. Clearly different money management.
Investments and securities involve the risk of loss.
It's that time of year. Cash the ticket. Jim Castor with Mike Valletti, who shift the focus from football to college hoops, playing that system that's not a system, but sure plays like a system. Leading up to the tournament, we're looking for that value with the daily dimes. We look for the gross lines, getting us ready for the tournament where we're going to break down all the matchups and have an eye on some future plays too. This time of year, baby. Search Cash the Ticket on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Some people just know the best rate for you is a rate based on you with Allstate. Not one based on the driver who treats the highway like a racetrack and the shoulder like a passing lane. Why pay a rate based on anyone else? Get one based on you with driver lines from Allstate. Not available in Alaska or California, subject to terms and conditions. Rates are determined by several factors which vary by state. In some states, participation in bylaws allows Allstate to use a driver rate for purposes of rating. While in some states, a rate for increase for high risk driving generally, safer drivers are safer drivers. Allstate brand national insurance for the employees for Illinois.
Discover, this is Daniela.
Hi, it's Jennifer Coolidge. I just want to thank you for making me feel so special. I earned cash back on debit for my dinner party groceries.
That's great. But with Discover Cashback Debit, we give everyone cash back on everyday purchases. Anything else I can help you with?
Do you like asparagus and mushroom sorbet? I've got leftovers.
Introducing Discover Cashback Debit, a checking account with cash back. It pays to Discover. Eligibility and terms at discover.com/cashback debit. Discover Bank, PSE.
Without the ones like you who work tirelessly to keep things running, everything would suddenly stop. Hospitals, factories, schools, and power plants, they all depend on you. No matter the weather, emergency, or time of day, you're the ones who get it done. At Grainger, we're here for you with professional-grade industrial supplies. Count on real-time product availability and fast delivery. Call clickgranger.com or just stop by. Granger, for the ones who get it done.
With Progressive's Home Quote Explorer, you can check if you're paying too much for home insurance, because giving you options is the right thing to do.
Oh yeah, like bringing brownies to a dinner party. But I never bring brownies with nuts, because not everyone likes nuts, so they wouldn't eat those brownies. And even people who do like nuts will still eat brownies without them. Why? Because they're brownies.
But still, it's the right thing to do. So compare rates with Progressive's Home Quote Explorer. Progressive Insurance Company affiliates and third-party insurers, not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on home buying.
Ulta Beauty's semi-annual beauty event is happening now. Unleash your love for beauty with 50% off daily beauty steals on hair, skin, makeup, and fragrance. Shop your favorite brands like Tarte and Fenty Beauty by Rihanna. Plus, grab perfect hair care pairs from brands like Redken and Olaplex. And check out new arrivals from brands like Charlotte Tilbury and Dyson. Shop the Ulta Beauty semi-annual beauty event online, in-store, or try pickup today. Now through March 28th. Ulta Beauty. The possibilities are beautiful. Conditions apply.
Dude, you gotta hear this.
Go ahead. I think I want to hear this.
Sports Daily is on KFH.
Congratulations, Scott, for winning our HTO giveaway. Welcome back into Sports Daily, everybody. Oh, man. So, Tommy, I'm looking at the opening rounds just on Thursday of the, how many games are there? 10, 14 games? Which of the favored teams by seed come in as underdogs? So, basically, where are the chances for upsets if you go by just Vegas? Mississippi State is actually an underdog against Michigan State. That's a that may be, to open the tournament with that game, you're talking about Tom Izzo, who always wins early tournament games, always makes runs, against Chris Jans in Mississippi State, who, again, that dang region, right? Some of these regions are tough. I don't like UNC. I could see either of those teams beating USC in a second round matchup. So I don't know which of them that I'm going to take to do that. I think Mississippi State, but I'm probably taking either one of those teams to beat UNC in the second round. That's probably my biggest early upset. You look around elsewhere, you've got South Carolina as a pick'em against Oregon. That's a 6-11. You have Dayton in a 10-7. As an underdog. Dayton as the number 7 seed is an underdog to Nevada. I think I have Nevada advancing, and I haven't looked at these until now. And then you have Washington State as an underdog against Drake by 1.5. They're the biggest, we'll call it a home team. So the seed, the team with a better seed in that 7-10, that's as good as you can get. Texas Tech's only a 5.5 point favorite in their game. KU we mentioned, I think, is at 7.5 right now. Gonzaga's at 6. So we're right for upsets there in the first round. It will be interesting as we look at the Thursday games, Tommy. I think I'm going to take McNeese State. I do. And I'll take Nevada, but again, those are pick'ems. Do you have a dark horse? We'll start with Thursday and then we can go to Friday. Do you have a dark horse of this grouping that you could see make some kind of a, run into the Sweet 16? I think probably the answer is McNeese State, right? Would be potentially the most likely to do it. I think Drake, God, could you imagine Drake versus Iowa State in the second round? I mean, come on.
Yeah. And there are a handful of teams on Friday that I like as far as upsets are concerned. And I know we're talking about Thursday right now. As far as Thursday is concerned, I think, probably Nevada over Dayton is an upset that I like.
But that's not even an upset, right? Like,
right.
It's
but
by
as far
seed,
as
but
the
Nevada's
lower
the
seed,
favored team.
Right. I have a really hard time betting against Tom Izzo in March. Really hard time. And I know that Michigan State has had some ups and downs this season. And I know Mississippi State on paper is probably a better team than the Spartans are, but it's hard for me to bet against Tom Izzo in the tournament. So I'm probably going to go Tom Izzo. And then I'm with you. I mean, I think that either one of those teams, whether it's Mississippi State or Michigan State, can give North Carolina a run for their money.
They for sure can. And look, I said Drake versus Iowa State potentially. Both, Des Moines and Ames. Remember, Drake's in Des Moines. I will be in Omaha. That's where I'll be, rather than at the games or at the sports book with you on Thursday. That Omaha regional. You want to talk about a party, Tommy? We've got Iowa State in there, Illinois. BYU is going to show up, maybe not so much as a party, but they're going to show up and be rowdy. It will be that regional. I mean, it couldn't have gotten much better. Of course, KU didn't make it there, which was originally why we headed up there. But it should be fun. And Drake, Iowa State, I'm going to tell you right now, Drake, Iowa State, if that's a second round matchup.
Oh, yeah. What a game that would be. And I do think Drake can beat Washington State. I think they will beat Washington.
Well, they're
State
favored.
They're
favored against Washington State. So I kind of hope, even though I kind of pulled for Washington State based on all the realignment, Drake, Iowa State would just be so juicy. So then you look at Friday. What's funny about Friday as I look at it, so you look at road, the higher seeds that are favored by Vegas, New Mexico over Clemson. That's one of the games I'm picking. And again, I have not looked at this. And then the other one, who was the other one? Oh, TCU, a 3-point favorite over Utah State in the 9-8. I'm taking TCU. So it like all the games I feel good about are actually Vegas favorite games. I guess that shouldn't be that surprising, but it is interesting. If you're filling out a bracket and you're not a junkie or anything like that, and you're just trying to win your bracket contest, go to the betting lines and bet the favorites that way, not by seed. Just take all the money line favorites, and you'll probably do really well in your bracket challenge, because it is going to provide, and you'll look really smart too. You're like, look, I picked that 11 over that 6. And around the office, nobody knows that 11 was actually favored in the game. They'll be like, oh man, you had 11 in there? Awesome.
Yeah. I think that there are probably more potential upsets or double-digit seeds over winning on Friday than there would be on Thursday. There's a couple that I like in the South region. I think that we could very easily be looking at a second round matchup between number 12 seed James Madison taking on number 13 seed Vermont in the second round. I think that Vermont, I think it's a bad matchup against Duke. I think Vermont beats Duke, and then James Madison has kind of taken the country by storm. I think they can beat with Wisconsin, and by that point, you would see that 12 against 13 in the second round. So I do see a couple of upsets there, and then also in the South region, and this is a big if. We don't know for sure the status of Tyler Kolek and Marquette. If he's not playing. At that point, Western Kentucky, a 15 over a 2, it's not out of the realm of possibility. Is it likely? No, but it's not out of the realm of possibility at that point.
Yeah, Marquette's the team to watch for sure. At full health, they're good enough to be a Final Four team, or way far from it. I don't actually like I don't like the James Madison. I like James Madison. Don't get me wrong, and I'm probably going to take them. Wisconsin's hot though. Wisconsin just played themselves into the Big Ten tournament. Wisconsin's another team that just loves to make tournament runs every year, it seems like. That I don't like that for James Madison. As much as I like James Madison and have planned on, taking a little ride with them in the tournament, I think that in my rough draft, I have them going ahead and winning that game. I don't know how good I feel, though, about playing hot teams coming into the tournament, like teams that made runs. And so, like, for instance, I worry about Texas Tech a little bit in that regard, having to play NC State. I like Texas Tech as a tournament team. I don't know that I love – it's hard to take them anywhere when they have that kind of first-round matchup against a hot team like NC State. So, brackets for me – anymore, Tommy, I fill them out based on trying to win bracket challenges as much as I try to be predictive, because trying to be predictive in this tournament is nearly impossible to do from the beginning anyway. Like, so what the hell? Like, if I'm going to fill out a bracket and try to take down big bracket challenges, I'm almost never picking the favorite to win the tournament ever, because then it becomes so. Like for me this year, probably I will be riding like an Illinois championship would be the way I would attack a bracket challenge. And I'll only usually I usually fill out one, and that's it. And I just enter that everywhere. But that's as of now. And I thought about doing that with Creighton, but it's not going to be UConn for me. You know, if I was going for what I actually thought would happen, I would probably pick Houston. Well, I'm not going to do that either, because as a 1 seed, they're going to get picked too often. So what I would probably do, again, is work backwards. I'll start with having a champion not a lot of people are going to have in a team like Illinois. And then I work backwards and trying to get everything else right. But so just when I look at stuff like that, that's how I do my bracket. So, you know, as of now, and this isn't final, I would have Illinois as a champion. Then I'll work backwards, try to get everything else right, accumulate as many points as I can in those bracket challenges to try and take down some of the big ones.
Yeah, I really like Arizona as my champion right now, so I'll probably work backwards from there. But also in that West region, you mentioned New Mexico over Clemson. I love that pick. Richard Pitino has got New Mexico playing great basketball right now. But I'll tell you one other upset that I really like in that West region on Friday. Grand Canyon over St. Mary.
Yeah.
Bryce Drew and what he's built at Grand Canyon. Scott Drew's brother, pretty fantastic with Grand Canyon. And they're a team and a program that, you know, they don't get a lot of attention because of the conference that they're in, but they're 29-4. They're taking on a St. Mary's team that, you know, competed with Gonzaga. And really it's those two teams in that West Coast conference. And that's basically it. And so I do think that what is that, a 12/5? I do think that Grand Canyon has an opportunity there to get that upset. And that's honestly a big reason. I know that we've had a lot of conversations on this show about, as it relates to the Jayhawks, about Samford in that opening round game. But it's a big reason why I was worried that Kansas would fall to the 5 seed, because a 12/5, typically you've got really, really solid teams as 12 seeds that are coming in, whether it's Grand Canyon or McNeese State or James Madison. There are a handful, you know, of those teams that are really good. And I would have been more nervous if Kansas had fallen to the 5 seed because of the 12 that they could potentially be playing.
Yeah, and Ty and Grant Foster, I think a name that is familiar to folks. Obviously, leads the way there for Grand Canyon. It's you know, he's a Kansas City guy. He played at DePaul. He started at Kansas, you know, what seems like a lifetime ago. But he was the WAC Player of the Year this year. And yeah, great players. You like that. 12/5s don't even really feel like upsets to me anymore, Tom. I mean, we and you know, like 11 and 12 seeds are usually really, really good in these tournaments. And it's because they're the best of the mid-majors. It's not like you have to almost rewire your brain to understand, like, those are some of the best teams that there are, right? Like, those are some of the, and you know what else we've seen recently is play-in teams making a run. So we look at the play-in teams here for just a second, and you look at, you know, Colorado State and Virginia, and you look at Colorado and Boise State. I don't see it out of Virginia, but Colorado State, Boise State going on to win multiple games, absolutely could see it. I like those three.
I like both Colorado and Colorado State. I'm with you. Virginia, I don't even think deserved to be in the tournament. I don't like that they got
Indiana State. Indiana State should have been
100%. But Tad Boyle at Colorado has done a great job. And they're, of course, going to be coming to the Big 12 next season. So that's going to be interesting to watch the former Jayhawk, Tad Boyle, bring his Colorado team to the Big 12. But I do like them. And then Nico Medved at Colorado State doesn't get a lot of attention. But the style in which he coaches, he's so much fun to watch, and what he gets out of his players, because as we know, a program like Colorado State is not typically going to get a lot of attention nationally. And the fact that they were able to get in, I know they're in the first 4, but I do think that either one of those Colorado teams could win multiple games and make a run in the tournament.
I'll tell you, in my bracket right now, I'm taking Boise State, Colorado, the winner of that game. I'm going to put them in the Sweet 16. I'm going to put the winner of that game, whoever it is, I'm putting the winner of that game into the Sweet 16. So, again, I just try, history tells us there's something to playing that early game and getting a head start on the field.
My only thing, and I get your philosophy on that. Florida has come out of nowhere though in the last couple of weeks, and have beaten SEC powerhouses in the last several weeks, and so that's going to stand in the winner of that Boise State Colorado game. But I'm looking more at, I think Colorado State beats Virginia in the first 4, and then I think Colorado State can upset Texas.
Yeah, I agree. Texas is one of those teams too, though. Like Texas their range of outcomes is all over the map. Don't you? I could see Texas. Yeah. I mean, they could be a first-round bounce. They could get busted, or they could make a run to the Elite Eight. Like Texas is all really. That's kind of the case for all the Big 12 teams. I think the Big 12 is the hardest to predict because it is so brutally tough throughout the course of the season. We know they're all really good. We know it's the best league in the country. We know that they fare well when they match up with other leagues during the season. I think it's a fool's errand to look at the NCAA tournament and try and say that's what indicates the strength of a conference once it's being played. I think that's silly. There isn't a Big 12 team, to me, in the tournament that doesn't have the ability to make like an Elite Eight Final Four type run. Not one of the 8. I don't think has really? That in their range of outcomes, right?
Okay.
The problem is for all of them except for probably Houston, for me, could also go the other way, right? Like they could all range the other direction too. Maybe I wouldn't put Iowa State.
I don't see that from Iowa State. No, I don't think.
The problem for Iowa State is that region is disgusting. Like it is so. I mean, Iowa State could match up with Drake in the second round. You could play Drake in the second round, and then you got to play Illinois, most likely, or a rematch against BYU. I mean, look at that. That region is absurd. Auburn is in that region, and San Diego State is in that region. Good luck, UConn. You know what I mean? Like, I think
it's by far the most difficult region, without
not even close,
without question. And because Auburn's a 4 seed.
Nobody wants to play Auburn now.
I wouldn't want to play Auburn if I was a 1 seed,
No.
And so there are a number of teams like that in that region. And so I feel like, and I saw an interview with Dan Hurley yesterday, UConn has the best season in the country and they're rewarded by the most difficult region in the tournament. And so I don't think that that's particularly fair for UConn. But at the end of the day, like you have to just go out there and prove it. If you're the Huskies, right. You have to prove it that you are the best team in America by getting out of the best region in the tournament.
You could play FAU. So here's UConn's potential path, right? A Final Four matchup from last year against FAU in the second round, a Final Four rematch from last year in the third round, or Auburn, right, who nobody wants to play right now, or Illinois, who just won the Big Ten championship, Iowa State, who just won the Big 12 championship. I mean, even if you want to throw Drake, who won a Valley championship, or BYU, right? Like that's your path if you're UConn. I mean, that is brutal. And I'm going to tell you, like they're the favorite to win this thing, but it's a good year to take a shot in your bracket because UConn is a heavy favorite. They are right now under 4-1 to win this tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Houston's the next favorite, and then Purdue is almost doubled them up. This is a great year to not take that team, right? To not take the prohibitive favorite. This is the year to not do that. Like,
and I think that we would have probably advised that. At least I would have advised that early this season. I mean, we saw so much parity in NCAA basketball.
But
overall,
let's say UConn was in Houston's region. I mean, Duke, Wisconsin, Kentucky's going to be a challenge. Marquette, who's hobbled. I don't know. Let's look at if they were in the West.
Yeah.
Arizona.
I get it.
I would like UConn a lot in those circumstances. But 3 of my Final Four teams I was going to take before are in this region. 2 Final Four teams from a year ago are in this region. And Auburn is going to probably be like the trendiest long shot, if you want to call it a long shot pick to win this thing because of how hot they are right now. UConn's path is tough. I would not bet UConn. And they're the favorite. But that region is, they will not have an easy matchup unless maybe Northwestern wins the opener.
Yeah.
Outside of that, like, good luck because every game is going to be brutal.
If we are talking about this 3 weeks from now and UConn is the national champion in back-to-back years, it'll be the most impressive display of college basketball that maybe we've ever seen.
In recent memory, for sure, because what did they do it as a 4 seed last year, right? And then this year is a 1 seed with that path. And we won't remember necessarily that they were a 1 seed with that path when we look back on it historically, but we'll remember that they won 2 in a row if they do it. It's just, I don't see it. I don't see it for UConn. The chances are so long to me that it's not worth under 4-1 odds to get it. No way. And I hope that everybody picks them because that'll make bracket challenges, a little more appetizing for you too, as we talk about betting. And we're going to talk a whole lot more about betting throughout the week, certainly late in the week out from the FanDuel Sportsbook at the Kansas Star Casino. We'll come back. More Sports Daily right after this.
97.5 and 1240 KFH.
Hey, Kansas! Happily root for some upsets with BetMGM. Go to your account to spin the March matchups wheel and receive a 10 through 16 seed team for the tournament. If your squad makes it to the final 16, you'll win a share of $100,000 in bonus bets. The best part? This game is free to play. March is the most magical month of the year for college basketball, and BetMGM is your sportsbook for every big tournament moment. Enjoy same-game parlays, signature bets, live bets, and so much more with BetMGM in Kansas. Make sure to spin the March matchups wheel before the tournament begins and see which college squad you're riding with. If your team goes on a run and is one of 16 left, you'll split $100,000 in bonus bets with any other winners. Only at BetMGM. BetMGM and GameSense reminds you to play responsibly. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 plus, Kansas only. New and existing customer offer. All promotions are subject to qualification and eligibility requirements. Rewards are non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 7 days. Please gamble responsibly. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel.
We all expect our home to protect everything we love. But here in Colorado, we don't expect basement damage in our homes. The changing weather and shifting soil conditions we experience wreaks havoc on our basements. From water intrusion to wall cracks, there are many problem signs to look out for. But there's one way to get answers to all your concerns. A free home inspection from Groundworks. Proudly serving Colorado for over 20 years. Their team knows how to solve basement problems for good. Get your free inspection at groundworks.com.
Getting quality employees to fill positions in your company is essential. But finding those people can be a major hassle, unless you use ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter makes finding quality people a breeze. And right now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. With ZipRecruiter, one click sends your job to hundreds of top job sites. But more than that, ZipRecruiter's advanced technology identifies the candidates with the skills you need, sends you a list of great matches to review, and actively invites them to apply for your job. And the results speak for themselves. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. That's right, the first day. Now you can focus on your business and let ZipRecruiter do the work finding the best people for you. See for yourself. Experience the ease, efficiency, and power of ZipRecruiter for free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter.com/radio.
Pizza John's, open since 1969. Dine in Monday through Saturday, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. at 208 South Baltimore in Derby. Give them a call at 788-2011 or go online at pizzajohnsderby.com. Pizza John's, purveyors of round meals and flat snacks.
We all make mistakes, but when that mistake costs you money, your reputation, or even jail time, you need to make the right decision. I'm attorney John Rapp. If you've been arrested for a DUI, please call me at 316-267-2000 or go to DUIWichita.com.
Does your parking lot or driveway have potholes or other liability concerns in need of repair? Call 316-990-5855 today for a fast, free estimate. Pave the Way are the leaders in the pavement industry, specializing in asphalt and concrete paving, pavement repairs, and routine maintenance. Call 316-990-5855 today. You'll be glad you did.
Pave the way.
kicking asphalt every day.
I'm going after the deals at Crazy J's.
Crazy J's Furniture and Sleep Shop is Wichita's favorite furniture and mattress store for 3 generations and counting, offering the largest in-stock selection of quality name brand mattresses and bunk beds, and so much more at the best prices in town, guaranteed. Living room, dining room, bedroom groups, and accessories with delivery, setup, and special financing available. Open 7 days a week, east at 1026 South Oliver, west at 604 North Tyler. Go see them today.
Is switching your wireless service to Total by Verizon easy?
Totalmente.
And you get unlimited 5G data, $25 a line for 4 lines on the unlimited plan at an amazing price with no contracts. Should you switch to Total by Verizon? Definitely. Find a store or switch suavemente at totalbyverizon.com. Multi-rate when you activate without a pay, plus taxes and fees. Discount begins the month after you enroll. Additional terms apply. See website for data management practices.
Hurry up!
Go away. I'm enjoying my hot shower.
Yeah, we'd all like to. Hot water hog.
That's it, family meeting. We can all enjoy long, steaming, hot showers, even the last in line, which it seems is always me. But go ahead, have that imaginary argument of what you should have said. Take your time. With our new high-efficiency Navien tankless water heater, I'll never take a cold shower again. Visit tanklessmadesimple.com to learn more.
It's time to get back to the sports talk.
All right, let's do this thing. Go!
Sports Daily is on KFH.
All right. We haven't talked anything, or at least I haven't. I know you guys have, about the NFL free agency. I do want to spend some time there this week, Tommy. I will just say, Marquise Hollywood Brown in Kansas City. I mean, come on now. That's ridiculous. That's
incredible.
Ridiculous. What they get incredible. Him for, $10 million?
Yeah, 1 year, $11 million deal.
We had identified him as somebody unreachable that you'd love to have, right? But unreachable based on, they did this too with Juju Smith-Schuster. And Juju Smith-Schuster is, if you've listened to this show, it was great. He helped him win a title. I don't think it was, but the price at which they got him in such a, when they got him perfect fit scenario, that's what we have here again. Hollywood Brown is a perfect fit scenario. I mean, literally a perfect fit scenario. He does everything you want out of what they need. And now you're set. You're good. Like you don't have to, you've addressed it and you don't need to. You don't have to give up on Sky Moore or Kadarius Toney, but you don't need them to do much. You can hope they develop, but who cares if they don't? You have exactly what you need there now, and you can focus all your attention everywhere else. So
yeah,
I don't think that out of the way.
I don't think they're done in the wide receiver room. I mean, I think that whether you're going to find a veteran that you can get cheap for a deep threat, like there's a guy, for instance, like DJ Chark is out there. You could get him, or you could use a second, third round draft pick on somebody else to develop at wide receiver. I don't think they're done, but this is a really good start.
I think they can be, because I don't want them to give up on Toney or Moore yet, because it's not necessary. They're still very cheap. Well, but they don't cost you anything financially. They cost you a roster spot.
They cost you on the field when they drop passes.
Right, but they don't need them. That's what I'm saying. They don't now with Moore and Rice and Kelsey. I mean, how much do you need either of those guys anyway? Now you can keep Toney being a gadget player, and you just keep hoping Sky Moore can develop. I'm not worried about it anymore. Now you can focus everywhere else because they have needs, right? Offensive line, you have focused a lot of energy on Chris Jones. What do you do now elsewhere? We'll get into it later this week. I did want to mention, though, man, that Marquise Brown, goodness gracious. We'll come back. We'll wrap it up next.
Hornet Nation, it's time to...
All right, that's it, everybody. Great return for me. Thanks to Tommy and Paul for being here while I was gone. We've got Brian Green show tonight at 6, Shocker Baseball, Christy Breadbinner show, Shocker Softball at 7. Regular CBS Sports Radio programming until then include here locally Bob and Jeff from 2 to 4. Oh, boy. We have a lot more to come over the next few days. We'll continue to dissect the tournament, get to upsets, health statuses that matter. Didn't even get to the women's tournament today. We'll do that as well. K-State gets to host. KU is in. Looking forward to both of those teams. It'll be a lot of fun. Tommy, I appreciate you hanging in there while I was gone and holding out for me. Let's do it again tomorrow. For Tommy and Jada.
Later news and great comedy with Bob and Tom Morning.